The monomyth theory compiles 12 ubiquitous steps that most heroes and heroines face on a journey to conquer some sort of evil. These 12 steps can be very generic and include the hero's uncomfortable home, their call to adventure, their refusal/denial of something they learn, when they meet their mentor, when they cross their threshold, a series of tests that they have to face, their preparation for a large fight, an ordeal, their reward, their road back, their resurrection, and their return with some sort of elixir. While every single hero might not check off all 12 of these steps, the majority of heroes go through over half of them.
She was a young hero who took a huge leap towards women's rights and the victory that the French cherished. Epithet 1, Joan of Arc. Quote, she never heard herself called Joan of Arc, a name first used in 1455, more than 2 decades after her death. Even though she is often called Joan of Arc, the version made was never actually called that. Source, Hubbard Brown, Janet, Joan of Arc, religious and military leader. Epithet 2, Maid of Orleans. By the 18th century, Voltaire wrote a poem called The Maid of Orleans, page 95. Voltaire helped popularize the name Maid of Orleans for Joan of Arc. Source, Hubbard Brown, Janet, Joan of Arc, religious and military leader. Figurative language. Quote, if she wasn't transfigured while preaching on a mount, she was, eyewitnesses said, luminous in battle, light not flaring off her armor so much as radiating from the girl within. End quote. Page 5. Hyperbole. When people are reminiscing on a person they admired, they often embellish and exaggerate facts to the credit of the one they are honoring. Quote, she knew she was the chosen one in that there was, as she said, no one on earth, be he king or duke or the king of Scotland's daughter, or anyone else who can restore the kingdom of France. End quote. Page 51. Allusion. Immediately after this quote, the author explains that Scotland was an ally of France. The king of Scotland's daughter was betrothed to the son of England in an attempt to relieve tension. Joan is saying that not even that endeavor will be what saves France. She will be the savior. Source, Harrison Catherine, Joan of Arc, A Life Transfigured. Symbolism. Quote, the cathedral had a special meaning for Joan. Biographers Regine Pernaud and Marie Veronique Klein wrote what we can believe is that for her Reims was the home on earth of Saint Remy, a saint she had known as a child. What mattered to Joan was her assurance of God's presence and actions there. End quote. Page 11. Quote, virgin, symbolizing innocence, youth, and desirability. Page 28. Quote, virginity was considered the sign of one who dedicates himself or herself wholly to God. End quote. Page 28. Quote, double lily represented French royalty. Clovis, the first French king, received a golden lily from an angel upon his conversion to Christianity. It later came to symbolize perfection and light. End quote. Page 36. Source, Hubbard Brown, Janet, Joan of Arc, religious and military leader.
Joan was born in a large family of 7. She was the second youngest of 5, and her father was a peasant who made little money. Joan grew up in an atmosphere of war and deadly diseases.
At the age of 13, Joan began to hear voices. She was convinced that they were angels and on many occasions would see them too. Eventually, she heard the voice of God.
Joan, you are the savior of France. It is up to you to lead and fight in this war. No one is capable of this task.
Yes, my Holy Father, I will accept my responsibility and save my people.
She travels to speak with Robert Baudricourt, who turns her away, but she comes back the next year to the king herself to try again. She convinces him after explaining her vision of France being defeated. Quote, I am sent here by God, the King of Heaven. End quote, page 32 to 33. And he offers her a sword.
Joan, you must lead another life and perform wondrous deeds, for you are she whom of the King of Heaven has chosen to bring reparation to the kingdom of France, and help and protection to King Charles.
Message that was given to Joan and recorded in a letter to the Duke of Milan. In specific, she heard voices from St. Margaret, St. Matthew, and St. Catherine. Quote, she was to find the king, defeat the English at Orleans, and ensure that he was crowned at Reims. End quote. Page 26. Hubbard Brown, Janet.
Charles and his council did not provide an army for Joan at first. Joan was instructed to go to Poitiers so that multiple clergymen could examine her. Joan was questioned by the clergymen for 11 days straight. She responded to their delight. Quote, one question they asked was why, if it were in God's will that she drive the English back to England, did she need soldiers? She said that the soldiers are to fight in God's name and that God would give them the victory. By the end of the interview, the clergymen were convinced that Joan was indeed the virgin who would come to save France. They said that in her is found no evil, but only good, humility, virginity, devotion, honesty, and simplicity. End quote. Page 33, Joan of Arc, religious and military leaders. Her next test was to go to Tours, where it would be confirmed that she was a virgin. Her virginity was important to know because the prophecy describes their heroine as a virgin maid. After these trials, Charles made her do. She was given an army and sent to Orleans to fight the English. Quote, from the time she arrived at Vaucouleurs in early January, she wouldn't have had the means to learn how to ride a war horse, end quote. Pages 72 to 73, Joan of Arc, A Life Transfigured. Part of Joan's preparation to fight in the war that God called her to lead was being trained in order to learn and to master a knight's necessary skills. She was praised for her level of skill because although she claimed that she knew not how to ride or lead a war, she was unusually adept at many things that not even the most active of other females were capable of, like that of destriers, specialized in thoroughbred horses, usually reserved for usage of knights in battle. Quote, on April 29th, 1429, Joan entered Orleans. She was followed by lords, squires, and men-at-arms. She walked out to view the enemy. She yelled at them to go away in God's name, otherwise she would drive them out. Joan stuck to the chivalric code of not fighting on a Sunday, but it was getting harder to abide by such codes because the enemy was not interested in following rules. End quote. Page 41, Joan of Arc, Religious and Military Leaders. Quote, had the maid's entry into the war been met with failure, it would have punctured and deflated her army's confidence, made evident by the fierceness of their attack. Joan, sickened by the carnage she inspired, wept. End quote. Pages 149 to 150, Joan of Arc, A Life Transfigured. As tales and myths of Joan spread throughout Europe, many people doubted her holiness and whether or not she was fit to play the leading role that she was allegedly called to do. However, moments after meeting her and standing in awe of her aura and attitude, they were quickly and easily persuaded of the power she held and agreed to stand by her side. Joan experienced her first large-scale struggle in victory May 8, 1429, when she and her determined army broke the siege of Orleans. Charles VII gave her a small army, and with her excellent leadership skills and strong following, they followed back the English. As much satisfaction Joan found in succeeding in helping the French, the death and lust her companions had for it saddened her, as did many other things during this trip.
Quote, again the populace exulted, straining toward the light that fell on their warrior astride her white horse, giving wondrous praise, especially above all to Joan the maid. End quote. Page 159, Joan of Arc, A Life Transfigured. Joan had already amassed a hearty following of people who believed in her, her story, and her potential, and from her endeavors continued to glean more and more. As her tale spread far and wide throughout Europe, more people relied on this holy savior and held her to a high standard, almost as high as the very God she served. Her story and subsequent success on the battlefield created an effect that warmed the hearts of the French and turned cold the blood of the English.
On the road back after the war, Joan returns home to France. People start trying and charging her of her crimes. She is eventually under the threat of being killed and signs a document denying that she had been guided by God. She eventually wears men's clothes again and is burned at the stake. The resurrection of Joan of Arc can be seen figuratively, but literally as well. After her death, her fame skyrocketed. Eventually, 20 years later, King Charles cleared her name. She was pardoned and then knighted. Joan of Arc achieves mythic stature, inspiring numerous works of art and literature, and becomes a well-renowned heroine of France.
Joan of Arc started her life as a seemingly unimportant peasant girl. Her story is one that inspires people to make a difference, to step outside of the stereotypes and limitations placed on them by society. It opens eyes to what one little person can do if they've got the determination and grit, the passion and the strength. Throughout her brief lifetime, through willpower and God-given strength alone, she changed the lives and perceptions of many people. Although she was burned at the stake at the young age of 19, she put those few years she had to lead, fight, conquer, and inspire to good use. Joan of Arc truly changed the world.